Well, welcome back, everyone. We are here again for another cup of joy as we round out the year. I know we have listeners from all over, but here in Ohio, it's about to go down. We got a little ice snow storm potentials, and -1 degrees is the high for tomorrow. So I need this cup of joy to warm me up. So we're rounding back around into the personal well being sphere, which includes emotional and spiritual well
Rachel.
being. And again, we are nearing the Christmas holiday, which we know not everyone celebrates it, but nonetheless, we are in this season of giving. So, Lane, what shall we discuss with the peeps today?
Today, we're talking about how there's one thing that gets lost in this time of year, and especially, in that special time between Christmas and New Year's. So whether you're celebrating Christmas or not, it's still, people traditionally are taking time off of just their normal routine in some way, whether it's work or just, you have kids and your kids are off school, whatever it is. There's that kind of like in between time. So Christmas is all about giving. So we're giving gifts to everyone. We're celebrating the people in our life. We're spending time with family and friends, loved ones. And then New Year's comes around a few days later. And usually New Year's, if you're into it, you might set some resolutions. If you're not that into it, you might still find yourself kind of just reflecting because a whole year has passed. So you're reflecting on yourself and you're trying to figure out, how can I make this year better? How can I do, especially if you're
Mhm.
listening to this and you're into Joy Society, you're into what we're doing, you're probably thinking about self-improvement in some way and growth. So there's this, separation. There's the giving and then there's the self-improvement. And where in that time are we just, stepping away from all of that and just that kind of like intense energy and just giving to ourselves just a moment of peace or a moment of calm and just not trying to improve ourselves for 1 second. I think we get caught up in, all of this, especially with what we do in Joy Society. We're always trying to talk about
Mhm.
self-improvement, and that's a
Mhm.
big aspect of what we do. And that's important for us to keep that energy going. But what's also just as important is to listen to what the environment is asking of us. And at this time of year, it's really important to give ourselves that pause and to give ourselves some space to just give something to you that feels like it's going to be helpful as you move forward into self-improvement. So Liz, what are your thoughts on this kind of like middle space between the two holidays, where maybe it's really important for us to just give something something even small to ourselves, like a
Mhm.
moment.
Yeah, I think this is huge. As we were preparing, I was like, shoot, you know me. I be done just researched how do you create a holiday? Because nowadays this is a holiday for everything, right? There's like the pickle holiday of the year, whatever. Like it's the most.
National
Yeah,
ice
so
cream
like I
day.
love the idea of like the National Day of Self, between December 25th and January 1st. Because as you said, like a lot of people look forward to this time of year because it's nostalgic, as we've talked about. It's joyous, and people are just excited. But then they're also stressed, which we've talked about in the previous episodes about what the holiday season, unfortunately, is kind of laced with. All that nostalgia is like laced with all the stress, right? And so it quickly becomes, it's like excited about time off. But then for a lot of people, that time off ends up being time to cook for others, to make sure your house is clean for others, to give to others, to buy other stuff, to blah, 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 right? And then you're like exhausted from all of that. It was what it was. Parts of it you love, parts of it you're like, thank God that's over. And then next thing you know, it's New Year's. And even if you're not into resolutions per se, a lot of people at least do reflect. And to me, that tends to lean towards more of a critical reflection to say, either what do I need to level up on, or the whole like every year, you guys, come on, like this year's going to be my year. And then it's like, so what are you going to do? That's going to be new and add. And so it really, like, there isn't a spot in there, and really in any day of the year, but this time of year, there isn't a spot in there where we just honor self. And again, even if you do, because I know there are people who like celebrate their wins and like review their wins for the year, it's also paired immediately with the, and then what am I going to do and fix? And so even if it's just the idea that you kind of put a little space between though, because if you are a person who kind of does that self reflection for the purpose of identifying wins for the year, uh, but then moves right into the goal setting, I just feel like it would be beneficial for us to have a space in between that activity. And if you already do that, just that, again, there's a couple of days in between where we just are allowed to celebrate who we are, what we've accomplished, where we are, because um, I just feel like we live in a world where most people feel guilty even about being able to like honor themselves and give themselves credit. And, waiting for others to do that is, in my opinion, not an ideal scenario. And there's no one else who knows like who you are in your entirety. And therefore, like what to even honor this year. So I think it's like a combination of both a reflection opportunity to absolutely celebrate every freaking win you can think of, as well as just that pause to like give to self. We talked about when we were preparing, just like being still for self, right? So for me, when we were kind of preparing for this, I was thinking about, I've had these moments. I actually had this moment, I feel like I had this moment last year and this year, and I'm not a super new. I don't think I've actually ever done official New Year's resolutions, and the reason I don't is because I live a lifestyle of goal setting and achievement, so I don't wait for New Year's for that. Like, it's something I activate throughout the year. But I have these moments, not necessarily from a New Year perspective, but just like I had these flashes of realizing, damn girl, you was crushing it, and like I would pause for a minute and like start to think about the list. And then, me, I'm typically moving fast. And so I never have actually completed that activity. And I know for goal oriented people like me, especially business owners, leaders types, like there's an insatiability to it, to where a lot of folks that are like that don't really do the self honoring, because we're like already knowing that, yeah, okay, I accomplished this or I grew in this way, but shoot, we got more to do. You know what I mean? So let's go to work. So it's something I've actually wanted to do, and I actually have not created time to literally, like, I wanted to like literally write it all down, because you do have those moments. I don't care how successful you are, where you can really lose track and
Yeah.
sight. You could have totally crushed it and be living your best life and say like having the best year of your life, and then in a funky moment on a funky day, you over here feeling like questioning your dreams and goals and all of that. So for me, I really like this idea, and I'm like starting to like lightweight get serious about making a holiday. What do you
I love
this might
that.
be
I
another
don't
to-do
think,
item for me, Lane, and we both know I don't need any more to-do items.
yeah,
So
no, we can just, yeah, we'll that'll be our New Year's resolution. We'll work on
not to make any new to-dos.
that. Yeah. So well, yeah, also, I think you're right. If there isn't already a National Day of Self, there absolutely should be. There's a National Day of literally everything else.
Everything.
So
Everything.
I almost feel like there is one, and we should probably look it up first before we try to make our own. But you know what I was thinking about just as you were talking, we've talked about this in another episode, but it was kind of a long time ago, so we haven't brought this up about this issue that I have personally with like resting, or like not having a project or like something to do like next. So like, do you remember a couple weeks, not weeks, I don't know, a couple months ago when I brought up the exam, the licensure exam, and how you
Yes.
were like, Just don't,
Yes.
like, first of all, that was really good advice you gave me to not focus on it right then, because this was leading into the basically, for anyone who wasn't on that and didn't listen to that episode, I had kind of for the first time felt settled after this big move and felt like, everything had kind of like all of the stress and projects that I had going had just somehow kind of like dissipated a little bit. And I was like, well, looking at my list, like, what's my next goal kind of thing. And Liz had encouraged me to just give it a while, because this was a big project that I was talking about, and just revisit it in the new year.
And
And
even the why, like why?
yeah, like,
Why?
why? Yeah, I didn't
Mhm.
need, it's not like something that I needed absolutely right then for any reason. So that, first of all, that alone was helpful advice. And then it kind of led us into a conversation about why was I like immediately kind of trying to find like the next thing to focus on, and why I feel so almost guilty when I just take time without
Mhm.
having like a new project. And by
Mhm.
project, I mean like self-improvement project,
Something to
whether
work
it's
on,
like
yeah.
professional or personal or something. I'm not talking about like work projects or even like my hobbies or anything, because like those are, outside of that realm of self-improvement. But I feel like this conversation could be very relevant for anyone who also kind of struggles with that, where it's you almost need to like force yourself to practice the
Mhm.
idea of not having of being okay with not working on
Yep.
something
Yep.
self improvement related. So when it comes to this time between Christmas and New Year's, it is a gift in itself that this is the only time of year where the world is really slowed down. Like
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
I mean, outside of like COVID and other times where we have seen out of like crisis things slowed down. This is like out of not crisis. This is out of a true like
A choice,
a choice.
an
Everyone's
opportunity.
choosing
Yeah.
an opportunity. Like, and if you're lucky enough to have time off of work, then and if you're not lucky enough to have time off of work, you still can notice and take advantage of the fact that the world is slowing down at this time of year. So it's,
Mhm.
schools are closed, even businesses, a lot of them closed down, shut down. So it's this gift, I guess we're talking, the missing gift is that you can use this opportunity to practice the idea of just resting and taking time off of self
Mhm.
improvement and doing things for yourself or others
Mhm.
without feeling guilty about it. And
Mhm.
I use the word guilty because that's something I relate to. That's the feeling I get if I am
Mhm.
like a week has gone by and I realize like all I did was just like my job and my like tasks related to like other people in my life, and I didn't do something that was like for myself, like related to like improving. But then it's like you still, there's something so valuable about not working on self for a
Yes.
time that I
Yes.
think we forget, especially when that's the pressure everywhere is to just like improve yourself and like keep, and we in Joy Society we're probably contributing to that pressure to an extent, which that's
No, we don't do any of that.
well right. But I mean, the point is that like there is something to be gained from taking a piece of time, whatever, however long that is, whether it's a day or it's that whole week in between the holidays, to just do the little things that just feel good, that just make you feel happy. Like, you sit on the couch or you watch your TV show, or you drink your coffee, or you sleep in, or you cuddle with your dog, or you have time to play with your kids, or whatever it is that you don't normally get to do in your busy life. And and that and to feel good about it, because it's one thing
Mhm.
to just do those things and then
Yeah,
in the
and
back of
then you're,
your
like, feeling
head,
guilty the whole time.
yeah, in the back of your head you're like, this is not helpful for my goals, or like this isn't helpful for me long term. I don't think I should be spending as much time. Like maybe it feels good like as you're doing it, and then you reflect back and you're like, oh, I just wasted all this time.
Right, right, right.
I should have been, I had time off work, and so I should have been working on these goals I have. that's the trap. And I think to just be able to take that time and actually fully enjoy and then reflect back and be happy that you took that time and
Mhm.
feel good about the fact that you gave yourself a gift by not burning yourself out further. And I think that you can burn out on self-improvement. So
For sure.
it's easy to do that. So
Mhm.
that is actually an essential piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
is to take that time and just not do anything.
Mhm. Yeah, I one of the things I always tell folks that I'm coaching, and we have a one of our members, we've talked about this many times with her. I mean, I
Mhm.
love, I'm goal oriented and both self-development, personal development and professional development, but I talk to her all the time. It's like a regular thing. I remind her like you cannot be on the surgery table 24/7. Like I give the example of like if you had to have double knee surgery, they
Yeah.
do not do both knees at the same time. Conveniently, you could be like it would make sense to say, well, it would make
Save
sense,
time.
but
Yeah.
like you're already down, you might as well get them. But they don't. Why? Because you need an opportunity to heal, right?
Mhm.
And then just to be able to like enjoy the results of the work, right? Of the surgery. And so I do that is something that I have coached many people on. And I will say, let's just be real, like not saying that this is going to be an easy thing. I as we were talking, I was remembering, and I can't remember how long ago this was, but it's only been a few years that I literally was working on I had a moment where I realized, like, I don't know how to slow down and be still. I don't know what that even looks like. You know what I mean? It was just like something I can't remember what happened, but something told me that, like, I needed to. But then I was like, I don't know how. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I want to just pause to also say, like, if this is something you're hearing and you're like, I could see where you're going with that. And either you're like, I'm not sure though, or you try it for 2 seconds and you're like, shh, you sit down and you're like, okay, I got to get up. I just want to be clear. This is something that should you choose to gift yourself with this, it is something you would have to practice and like really create space to learn how to do. And I would argue if you start now, you probably won't figure it out before the end of the year because it's literally almost like developing a new skill. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel weird, it will feel awkward, right? And so you're if you do lean into this idea of creating the space for yourself, I just want to put out there that you should expect that it will feel weird, and that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That means this is something you haven't been doing in the past. So you have to give yourself the space to like kind of wander through the weird funky of it over time to where you start to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And it really is like it, and we could go complex. We said we're not going to go long and hard today, but it in order to really do it, it does tie to some other things. A lot of the stuff we talk about, like the boundaries thing, the part where you if you're someone, for example, a mom who feels like anytime you're putting yourself before your kids, you're a shit mom, like you would have to be working on deconstructing that untruth in order to be able to do this because otherwise, you'd be feeling guilty the whole time you do it, if you're even able to, right? Or if you're one of those people who feels like, you know, um, I can't get where I'm going if I don't, continue to push. Yeah, but you would also have to learn that truly, like, there is scientific proof that pausing actually makes you more productive. And so, again, you
Yeah.
would have to kind of like uh deconstruct, right, some things that may stand in between you being able to do this. But I think too it's something you mature into because as I think for me, depending on your personality too, like there's probably younger people who can do this early and don't struggle with it. There may be older people who can't, whatever. Like I think some of it's about like your personality, your season of life. I can be fully honest and say as we're talking, I'm thinking to all the times that people would say to me, you're going too hard, you need to pause. And it was really offensive to me for many years, and I don't
Yeah.
really know, I'm just being real, like, we sit here and talk about self-improvement, I'm also all about just keeping it real, like, if you're not in that season yet, you're not in that season yet. So if you're listening, and you may have turned us off by now if that's the case, but if you're listening and you're like, yo, I got goals, I want to just honor that too, because I've been there and there's nothing anyone could have told me at that season to tell me anything different.
Mhm.
I will also say that at this time, and being a little more mature and seasoned, I can see the idea of at least small pauses. Like, and maybe if somebody would have presented it that way to me, then maybe I could have heard it. But it was just more of this: don't do so much, don't go so hard. So we're really just proposing more of a small pause,
Yeah.
more of a even like you said, we've talked about how self-care, people get all like confused about what self-care really is, and we're like, it's not necessarily that you going to a spa day is self-care in and of itself, but it could be. And so I think these are one of those moments where between the 25th and the 1st, if you were to just like do a spa day and chill, or like you said, sleep in or be on the couch, like I think that would be a great thing. I really do.
Right. Right. I think it's like there's a different conversation about self-care on like how we can more deeply embrace that concept.
Hmm.
But like in this time right now, it's okay to not make it so deep. Like it's okay to
Yeah.
just do the casual self-care things that we all hear about all the time now, where it's like the bubble bath and the like, yeah, sitting on the couch or watching your show or just, taking time to do the things that you might not have time to do normally. So if that is cleaning your house, that could be self-care. I don't know, but there isn't it doesn't always have to be some deep reflective, like we have to take this so far every time. Like I think it
Mm-hmm.
is, like to your point, the small pauses can be everything and can
Hmm.
be enough. And if you get into a practice of that, then that will carry you through those times where you feel burnt out, or you feel like because if you are like what Liz described, how she used to be, just kind of like pushing and going hard all the time and not ever really even understanding the importance of taking breaks at all. I think you may have experience with burnout because like it's inevitable. If you're just like, we're not meant to just go
Hmm.
that intensely on one thing forever without any taking any time off from it. So I think if you're in that mindset, if you're like, I don't even relate to this concept of breaks because I just have my goals and I need to just keep going, I think you may relate to the concept of burnout because you may have struggled already, and burnout in the fact of like you're you're working towards your goals and you suddenly don't want to do anything anymore towards that goal, and you're almost forced into a break. So to kind of take that before it gets to that point,
Right. Take the
break.
opportunity to not to stay in choice
Yeah.
place rather than waiting
And
till
you
it
you
gets
talk
worse.
about
Yeah.
self-leadership a lot, where it's like a lot of times we are forced into doing things because we've gotten to a point where it's just necessary. We're forced to take a break from work because we've pushed ourselves so hard, or we're forced to move because we've waited so long and now this situation doesn't work anymore. Whatever it is, we don't always like the take the self-leadership of, I'm going to predict that this may happen if I keep going, and take the moment now, even when it's not necessary, not absolutely necessary for my like survival to like take a break. Then we don't have to get to that crisis point or get to that
Mhm.
level of exhaustion.
Mhm.
So I guess the point of this conversation and this holiday, where this self holiday we're proposing, is more just like an opportunity to practice something. If it's not something you do often, then you have to again be kind of encouraged and forced into the practice of it. So the world is giving you this opportunity in this time, between this quiet time between holidays. So
Mhm.
this could be a good opportunity to practice, if it's just a half day where you don't do as much as you might normally do, or you just adopt a different mindset around it. Because for me, it's not like my day to day wouldn't look that different necessarily
Mhm.
if I adopted this. It's more like how I think about those things and how I reflect on them after the fact. So if it's just a mindset shift and
Yeah.
just telling yourself that this is this is for you and this is like good for you and actually something that is positive and not like taking you away from your work or your self work or whatever,
Yeah.
then that could be enough. That could almost be enough.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think we're really suggesting two things. One or both for you to consider. One, as Lane just said, is the pause, whether that's again sleeping in, chilling on the couch, spa day, whatever your thing is, or just being chill and quiet, watching some football or whatever. The other is the for me again. I'm really like I wanna as we're talking like I'm dead serious like I want to do this. I want to make myself do this year because it's kind of like I said, I'm like 2 years into this kind of like coming up, and I have to do it in this passing moment where I list a couple things and then I like fade off into the next thing I'm working on. But just take time to like reflect on your wins and celebrate your wins. That's another thing we talk about. Again, I don't know if there's anyone more committed to the self improvement journey than me. Like that's been my life, but um, what I know having done that and lived in that for so long is celebrating the wins along the way are huge. And let's be clear, a win doesn't necessarily have to be some big thing. And sometimes the win is just that you didn't go backwards, that you were able to maintain, right? But just giving you guys some ideas and thinking about like wins for me, maybe some non-traditional wins. Like obviously, if you got a promotion or a raise, that's an obvious yes, definitely list that. That's easy to think of. Or if you got a new certification or degree, again, I think obvious to think of. Got a new car, bought a new house, those are more obvious. But like, for example, one of my wins this year for the first time, and I mean, I'm not going to criticize myself because I did hit a wall. I did hit true full blown burnout for the first time in my life this year, like fried, demotivated, strugglebus.com. It was a choice that I made to the strategy that I implemented to do what I did this year. So I'm not even I can't even say there's criticism or like something that I need to like think about with that because it was a conscious choice. But for me to then respond to myself by doing an 11-day sabbatical, which is what it turned into. And I didn't choose 11. That's just how many it ended up being. Like, I didn't know how long. But for me to give myself permission to do that. And when I did it, it wasn't just like a 11 days off. It was literally like, I literally gave myself permission to let go of every dream and goal I had, to reconsider everything I think I know to be true, to reconsider what I think I want, to literally like maybe even quit, like and like not finish the things I'm working on. And that's not something I really have done, at least to not that extent ever. And so that to me is a win that maybe you is an example of a win that you might not think of. Or even something like if you have been able to, maybe you were working on being more centered and you can think back to your interactions with humans this year and you've been able to not be so funky with people, and that was a thing you were really in for a while. That's like sometimes not so obvious to kind of count as a win, but that's damn sure a win, right? And
Yeah.
so just trying to give some examples of those not so obvious ones that I think, oftentimes I feel like those are often bigger than the raise or the new car job, because it's when you're able to like shift and grow internally in a way where you can actually see that growth like manifest behaviorally, to where you're like, I can actually see a difference in myself. In my experience, those are the greatest wins ever. Cause and I've had a lot of wins as far as degrees and raises and big contracts and all of that. But those wins where I'm like, holy crap, I really don't go off on people like I used to. Like that's one of my most like prized improvements slash wins. So, I just encourage folks to like pause and like think about wins, but after you do your first round of thinking about them, like go back and make yourself think deeper, because I think again, those surface ones are going to be easy to come up with, and I'm not saying surface like we dishonor them, because they're wins too, but just going deeper to find um, the not so obvious stuff that I think really honors, right? That you are you're doing just fine, right?
Mhm.
You're coming along. And then lastly, I would say like, and then there's just the part where you just honor yourself as is. It's not even about improvements. It's just as is. Just I'm good with me. You know, I'm thankful that I am here, that I still have an opportunity to do this thing called life. And even if there are things that I want to work on, I honor who I am today while I'm en route to whatever improvement
Yeah.
it is that I have in mind. Any last thoughts or suggestions from you, Lane?
Yeah, I really liked what you said about reflecting back. And I think sometimes for me, it's important to take it back farther than you would even think. So
Mhm.
as far as like you might if you only look back at this 1 year, you might not be able to notice so
That it's a win.
much
Yeah,
that it's a win. But if you look back
makes sense.
5 years,
Mhm.
even 10, like you can start to realize the wins a little bit more easily. You look at where
That's
you
a good
were
call.
5 years ago, even two, I don't know, like wherever,
Yeah,
however long ago
yeah,
you
that's
have
a
to
good
go to find the
yeah.
win. Um, but yeah, I think 1 year, we always think of things in terms of year because that's how we like measure
Mhm,
time, but like
mhm.
it doesn't have to be that. It can be however long, how like when you finished your last relationship and now you're in a new relationship, whatever it is that you want to count as the time frame, that's up to you. So I think just that alone, and then I want to add also like wins can be about the way, not something so tangible even.
Mhm.
It can be about the way that you think about something. So, for instance, like I was just telling you, a win for me could be that I was able to drop certain projects, self-improvement projects, and actually feel good
Just
about
be.
it. And
Mhm,
so just even the feelings around things can be a win, or the way that
mhm,
you think about something could be a win, not just the fact that you did or didn't do something.
mhm.
So I think that alone, everyone should have plenty of wins to celebrate this
Mhm.
year,
Absolutely.
no matter what they are. So that's all I have. I think this is a good reminder just as we go into this time, and obviously, Christmas is coming up, but this era of giving to others, and then we're moving straight into the rushing back to everything that we've always been working towards the next year. So it's kind of like that moment of pause, I think, is a good reminder for all of us.
All right. Well, cheers to all of you as individual human beings who are worthy and awesome beyond what you do, what your title is, whether you're a mom or a leader or a counselor or whatever awesome thing you do. Cheers to you as the human who, by themselves, without doing anything, is worthy of being celebrated. We hope that you celebrate yourself now and forevermore. We will see you one more time before the end of the year. Love and light. Happy holidays.